We're going to move along to our next candidate. We're going to welcome Clark Jolley, and I get confused as to what titles to call our friend Clark Jolley. Is it senator? Is it commissioner? Or is it just Clark? So I'm going to go with Clark because he's a friend as well. So Clark is a Del City native, longtime civil servant. Like I mentioned, spent 12 years as a state senator for the Edmond area. And as the state secretary of finance, most recently, he served as an Oklahoma tax commissioner, and he is up and willing and ready to continue to serve the state of Oklahoma as our treasurer. Clark, appreciate you being here.
Chad, thanks so much. I was going to say the best title you can say is just Clark. It works just fine. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you. See, looking at some of the names here on the Zoom, a lot of friends here. Good to be able to be with you all today.
Yeah, appreciate you. We appreciate you coming in. Finish the sentence for me. You're running for state treasurer because
we need a fiscal conservative who has experience and can step in the job day one to make sure we continue to lead fiscally in the office of state treasurer with integrity and experience.
Very.
Is that a good sentence?
I think it had a great sentence. Yeah, I'm going to ask you to fill in some blanks and some other things too. So
yeah, that sounds good.
So tell me this: is Oklahoma investing its dollars correctly? I know that's a function of that office, and why or why not? What would you do different?
Well, first off, I think we're doing a good job in the core of our investment, which is 93% of our treasury portfolio is invested in very secure investment vehicles. We're talking about U.S. Treasury bills, U.S. agency mortgage-backed obligations. We're talking about agency bonds, both federal and other states. So 93%, the overwhelming majority of the corpus of the treasurer's portfolio is invested very soundly, and that's where it should be. And statutorily, actually, that's what the statutes require the treasurer to do, is make sure that those investments are secure, so you always have assuredness that that funding is available. And it also provides you for predictability on liquidity, so you can move the money out when it needs to be going to state agencies. I think the rest of our investment portfolio is invested in a sound manner currently. The one thing that I would suggest that we should look at, especially when we talk about our overwhelmingly largest amount of money, is our pension systems. Our pension systems, all of them have been doing okay. But I think that there's some missing opportunities that we have in our pension systems, especially to be able to invest in Oklahoma corporations and investments here within the state. Obviously, most of our money is being invested in larger funds in New York and elsewhere, but there's some opportunities, and the legislature a few years ago passed a bill that actually encouraged, it didn't mandate, but it did encourage Oklahoma financial investments in Oklahoma-based companies. And I think that's one area where I think that that if we wisely and prudently invest a small amount of money just to start, I think that it will build up a track record of success, and that will then spur further investments. And I don't feel like we've got a considerable amount. I think it's too small right now to really be able to encourage that additional investment down the line. So that's one thing, more probably on the pension side of things than anything else, because that's where you've got tens and tens of billions of dollars in reserves that can be utilized for that purpose.
Yeah, I'll just throw a little comment on there. So SB 922 was the Invest in Oklahoma program bill that you're referring to. And you're right, it was not a mandate, but it was trying to encourage where appropriate for our government to invest in Oklahoma, VCs or real estate trusts, you name it. There's a litany of things where we could put some Oklahoma money to work with Oklahomans. We're not seeing, through our members, not seeing a lot of movement on that yet. So that's one thing we hope you'll keep an eye on. And I think we also know that that's going to take some time, and it's going to take some time to build those relationships. But putting Oklahoma money to work with Oklahoma companies and Oklahoma investment vehicles sure seems like a good idea, and we hope you encourage that.
Yeah, absolutely, Chad. And I think we also have to make sure that we're also mindful that there is currently a significant move, especially with this current administration, get financial institutions to disinvest in Oklahoma corporations and Oklahoma enterprises by trying to get them not only to disinvest with oil and gas companies, but also agriculture is on that list as well. And we should never forget that still, although we've done a good job of diversifying our energy portfolio and encouraging renewables, and we've got tremendous hydro as well as wind. The lifeblood of our economy still is oil and gas, followed right behind with agriculture, and we can't allow for a disinvestment in Oklahoma's portfolio of economic engines by folks that we then turn around and give our money to. And 15 state treasurers around the country have banded together to say, hey, if you're not going to invest in the lifeblood of our economies, then we're not going to put our monies with you. And I think that's another thing the treasurer needs to make sure of, is that we're fighting hard to protect Oklahoma's agriculture and fossil fuel oil and gas industries from the harm that's coming their way from New York investment firms as well as Wall Street, not Wall Street, but the U.S. Capitol.
All right, I got a question for you that's going to give you the shivers from your time as a appropriations chair. If you had because I know you would never believe in this question, but let's just play along with it.
Okay.
Play along with it. Okay.
All
so
right.
If you had an unlimited budget, what innovation would you want to create at the treasurer's office?
An unlimited budget. That's kind of scary.
I know it doesn't even exist.
Yeah, here's what I would tell you is Oklahoma needs to invest in itself more. And there's two programs at the treasurer's office. One is the 529 program. The 529 program is the second worst participation in sheer numbers of any state in the country. The only state that has fewer people investing in a 529 program is Hawaii. Even the state of Montana has more people investing in their kids' college educations than we do. I would work with businesses, with our tribal partners, with anyone and everyone, school districts, universities, to promote and try to change that factor, because that would be a reinvestment, not in government, but in our kids, and making sure that our kids had the ability to use those funds for college education, for career tech, or for K through 12 education. That is one area that we are embarrassingly low in the number of people we have participating. Our neighbor to the north, Kansas has, I want to say, like 10 times as many people investing in us, investing in 529 compared to us. The other thing I would say is we're sitting on $1 billion of unclaimed property. I think there is some synergies that we could use to go out and more aggressively find people and try to reunite them with their lost wealth. And it's not just individuals, it's companies and businesses as well. Right now, the treasurer's office just waits for them to come to them, and then they'll try to reunite. I think the treasurer's office needs to be more proactive in going out and reuniting people with their lost wealth, and then encouraging them to invest it back in our state.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. There should be particular in these times, getting people reunited with their money could be a really important occurrence. Tell me this: right. How should the business community hold the office of state treasurer accountable when serving the state? What are the metrics we should judge you and your success by, or that office by?
Well, I think first off, the core function of the treasurer's office is to make sure that state budgetary funding is secure, liquid, and that we get a return on those monies. And it's in that order: security followed by liquidity, followed by the return. So making sure that, number one, that statutory mandate is met is the main accountability that the office must meet. But then I would say that you also should judge the incumbent based off of how well they've done in promoting business and pro-business ideals, pro-business policies, pro-business tax policies. I would suggest that the state treasurer, more than any other office, has an independent bully pulpit to be able to advocate for good fiscal policy in our state. And that means creating an environment where people want to put their investment in our state. And you should judge it by seeing, is the state treasurer coming alongside to help in making sure that good fiscal policy is enacted that benefits Oklahomans and Oklahoma businesses. Then I think you have to look at how are they doing in promoting the 529 program? How are they doing in protecting Oklahoma from the intrusion into our personal liberties as it relates to notifying people about when the IRS is going to go after their personal bank account information. State treasurers across the nation alerted people when the IRS was going to go after that. So sounding those warning bells to let people know, hey, you need to call your congressman and make sure that we fight these types of things. I think all of those things together are ways to manage and judge the effectiveness of the office. But Chad, I think the main thing is, did the treasurer have a relationship with you during those 4 years, or did they just come back and ask for your money 4 years later? And did they go to chamber events? Do they come and speak to groups? Are they engaged in your communities? Do they answer the phone when you call them, or do they staff you out? And if you look back at my track record, I don't call people just whenever it's time to run for office. I maintain those relationships regardless of whichever function I'm in.
I appreciate that, and I can vouch for you. You have always been engaged, and appreciated that during all your service, that you've stayed plugged in with the business community for sure. We got about 3 minutes left. Just quick reminder, if anybody's got a burning question they want to get, you got to get it in quick or I'll eat up all the time. 405-818-1939 is the text line. You can send that to us. And so again, we got about 3 minutes left. I got a random question for you, and I'm curious how you'd answer this, but I think it's in. Who is your financial hero? Who's somebody you look at who, did it right, that you use as like, hey, that's my financial hero. That's the model by which others ought to, make base financial decisions, or, their economic outlook, or their view of money. I'm kind of curious how you'd answer that.
Okay, well, that's a tough question in terms of who currently to look at. I can't tell you right off the top of my head who today I would say is at this level,
right? But
it's Milton Friedman.
Yeah,
Milton Friedman, without question, his economic theories. I'm a fan of his. I teach at Oklahoma Christian, at Mid-America Christian. I teach business law, and I do everything I can to make sure Friedman's economic theories in those classes. Milton, without question, I don't think there's anybody today that reaches the level of what a Milton Friedman does.
Well,
now obviously, you look at Warren Buffett, and you look at how Warren Buffett he's a genius financially, but in terms of economics, economic theory, it's hard to pass the Nobel laureate Milton Friedman on that one.
Well, here's what's crazy. That's the second Milton Friedman shout out we've gotten today, and the last guy was running for state school superintendent. So Milton Friedman's getting some love today in the state chamber.
Well, I tell you, Milton Friedman, if you go back and you look at some of his lectures that he did in the 1970s, you would think they were absolutely being discussed about what we were facing as a country today. It's timeless. His information is timeless.
Yeah. Amen.
I'm not surprised that he's still getting shout outs today from other people, not just myself.
All right, got about a minute. Give us a wrap up on your 1 minute pitch on why you need to be our next treasurer.
Well, Chad, first off, thank you to you. And it's so good seeing so many people on this Zoom call that take an interest in government and what's going on in a culture today where a lot of folks are apathetic. It matters who we have in the state treasurer's office. It absolutely matters, because we need to make sure we have someone who's ready to step in day one. I'm honored to be supported by people like former Treasurer Ken Miller, Governor Frank Keating, and other pro-business leaders that understand the need for us to have a treasurer who understands the job, can step in day one. If you look at my background and my experience, 5 years as chairman of appropriation, almost 5 years at the Oklahoma Tax Commission, being named the chairman of the commission, as well as being Secretary of Finance. It's just there's no one who has a better preparation for this job than myself, and I would really appreciate and ask for your vote, your trust, and your support in the election coming up here on August 23rd. And Chad, with that, if anybody has any questions for me, my personal cell phone is 405-642-8686. And I'm happy for anybody on this Zoom to give me a call and let me know if they have any questions for me. But I appreciate the time, and I would encourage everybody to vote on the 23rd, and especially if they're voting for me, really seriously, then vote on the 23rd.
Well, Commissioner, Senator, friend, Clerk Jolley, appreciate you being here, and thanks again for your public service and for stepping up and being willing to serve us again. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Chad. Have a good day.